It's 9:48 on Saturday, October 31st. Happy Halloween. Hopefully you survived Devil's Night last night. Anyway, hopefully you're all safe. You're practicing safe practices and you're well. This is the letter. I'm entitling this one the letter because this is the legal notice officially sent to the powers that be about this situation that they've created. Just before I begin, I want to say again, they try and create a situation to make it look like tenants are the problem. In this case, they're doing the same playbook, which is messing with repairs, just using us, playing with us, with our emotions. They came and took off the side door, or came and said, "Oh yeah, you're going through a lot here. We agree with you. We're going to get this all done." Then they come and take off the side door and then don't return with it. Instead, they sent a note saying, "Well, there's really nothing that says we have to replace it." You know, the dance between the three different legal people, the three different entities. There's Theo Papadopoulos, then there was Atlas Property Management, then they decided to pull a fast one, try and make it look like Mark Koenig is the guy, and now they're back to Atlas Property Management again, using the system, their knowledge of the system in order to game the system to work the law with the full approval and assistance of the government, because they're doing the Queen's business of writing these contracts for money, these construction contracts and land deals that are not being overseen by the proper situation. Because again, I remind you, the Municipal Affairs is responsible for land registry. Anyway, so I'm about to read the letter and show you what's going on so far. Just to let you know, though, again, they're claiming we don't like to pay rent, just like they did the last time when they had the rent check for June and just decided not to cash it, because to do so would have been unlawful at the time. Until after June 1st, when he got his license, sight unseen, in the middle of being corrected for a work order as a prop against us. Go see the video for yourself. You can see theater at its best. But what you realize you're seeing there is they are lying, they are misrepresenting, they're tampering with an investigation, all on the tax dollars that we pay, okay? And that's the Crown. So let's be clear. Just to clear it up, again, here is a money order for the month of August, dated in August. See? $1,200 sitting on the fridge, ready to be collected, because we said, sorry, you're not allowed to cause it to be collected or collect it. So we said, come and collect it. And they refused to. Again, refused to, because I guess in their mind, they believe that if we hand it to them, that's not collecting it. We just gave it to them, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, their logic is they think they get away with this crap. Here is the one for September. Oops, sorry. I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. September and October. Again, $2,400. That's $3,600 sitting on the fridge, waiting for him to come pick it up. And instead, what he did, Mark Koenig has been doing a campaign of fear and intimidation against Kerry, to the point where we had to do, like, basically tell him, you're not coming over here unaccompanied, dude. And he showed up here, instead of coming to pick up the rent, and they had three legal representatives at the time, which I was told by their legal rep at Oldfield Graves that we are not to communicate with anybody but him. And, you know, in the meantime, Mark Koenig, his client, is coming around the house and he's dropping off the notice N4 notice. Personally, knocked on the door. He could have dropped it in the mailbox, but he personally knocked on the door because he saw the door was open. He knew that Kerry was home. So he was trying to get a confrontation with Kerry, and Kerry was instructed, do not answer the door, which he agreed to. But the point is, the man is here. I've got the video. I'll post it. He comes to the door and he's like, I'm just doing my business. I'm just dropping this off for you. You haven't paid the rent. Meanwhile, they're sitting on the fridge. right? So, I mean, where's the fun and games? Anyway, the point is, I want to make this a clear one because this is about legal notice on behalf of all tenants of Ontario, all taxpayers of Ontario, all disabled in Ontario, anybody who rents a property in Ontario, because the municipal affairs is for all of Ontario, and it seems that there's an indication that they're messing with everything. And let me remind you, municipal is the crown. They represent the crown's interests. There is amalgamation right now because Mayor Jaworski is both a regional councillor and mayor of Waterloo, which means all he has to do is get into the room with one person from the province or one person from the federal, and they've got quorum to open up any issue that they wish to. Municipal election is in 2 years. You need to pay attention. We need to educate ourselves, and the biggest thing is we need to call for referendum for their abolishment. Either their severe reining in or abolishment. Most scandals can be traced back to municipal level. This is interference. This is the pattern. They interfere. Anyway, back to the letter. So I wrote the letter, sent it off last night. I'm going to turn around and show you. Okay, but hey, look at this. This is my email, marstreetass, MARSTREETASS at execulink.com. And I sent the letter out last night because it was, as a person with disability, it's hard to assemble it to begin with, especially with the PTSD and everything. But that's the point. That's why they make you do it. So it took me a while to, because of my disability, to get it out, but I finally did. But look at this. I opened up this morning and look, we've got red, legal notice, Karen Redmond, automatic reply, Premier of Ontario, automatic reply, Human Rights Legal Support Center accommodation. So let's see what they say first, and then I'll show you the letter. So, message to Karen Redmond, subject legal notice, human rights abuse and unlawful conduct, sent Friday, October 30th, 2020 at 10:42 p.m. Eastern Time, USA and Canada, was read on Saturday, October 31st, 2020, 8:56 a.m. So Karen Redmond read it. That is the regional chair for the region of Waterloo. Premier of Ontario, thank you for your email. Your thoughts, comments, and input are greatly valued. You can be assured that all emails and letters are carefully read, reviewed, and taken into consideration. Oh, it's so good that they consider it, isn't it? There may be occasions when, given the issues you have raised and the need to address them effectively, we will forward a copy of your correspondence to the appropriate government official. Accordingly, a response may take several business days. Thanks again for your email. And I bet you Human Rights Legal Support Center has pretty much the same thing. Here we go. Human Rights Legal Support Center. Your email has been received by the Human Rights Legal Support Center. This is an automatic reply confirming receipt of your email. It is not a response to your email. Your email box is only for a request for accommodation if you're unable to communicate by telephone because of a disability, for example. Or you can't get into the building. If you can't get into the building, they'll help you with that. But if you need a representation before a court, well, you're on your own. Including independent living centers. Sorry, I'm getting off topic, but here you go. So that confirms that they read it. So let's go to send, and we'll get to the letter because you guys want to see the letter. Send. And of course, I notified Carrie and Denise and sent myself a copy, but here is the actual letter. So I just want to show you. This is who it's sent to. So it is sent to Doug Ford. It says Doug Downey, but that's because it's for the Attorney General, and Doug Downey's not the Attorney General now, I don't think. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's the Premier, Doug Ford. It's the Attorney General. Minister of Finance for Ontario. Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Ian Kerr, which is the Regional Manager for Ontario for Municipal Affairs and Housing. Tony Bruto, which is the team leader in London Southwest office, which is the office that oversees what the landlord-tenant board, everybody, including the inspectors. Karen Redmond, of course, we just saw that she's read it again. Dave Jaworski, mayor and regional councillor of Waterloo, the poster boy for amalgamation in Ontario. And there's more than just Dave Jaworski that holds that position. They are using it as a distraction. Anyway, legal at Ontario Human Rights Commission .on.ca, because that's where they say on the website that if you need immediate intervention, that is who you're supposed to contact. So we contacted them the last time, and they said, oh, we'll get in touch with Human Rights Legal Support Center. We also sent it to info@ohrc.on.ca, which is Ontario Human Rights Commission. We also sent it to accommodation at Human Rights Legal Support Center, which is hrlsc.on.ca. That's the one that we just read, that they've received it. And then, of course, sw-ltb at ontario.ca is the response for if you have any things that may be, anyway, disability request with the Landlord-Tenant Board. They've been sent this as well. So that's the list of everybody who's been sent it so far. And here is the email. So again, it was sent on 2020-10/30 at 22:32. So 11:32. Or no, sorry, 10:32, right? Yeah, 10:32. 10:32 on October 30th, it was sent. As you can see, all the names there. Friday at 22:22, highest priority. As attachments, we have letter to MA&H inspect tax fraud final PDF with 230 kilobytes. 100A Marshall's PS order, June 13th, 2019 PDF, 135 kilobytes. 98B Marshall Street rental license 2020 PDF, 606 kilobytes, and 2020-08-23 rep authorization, rep auth for AOTA PDF, which is basically the representative authorization for human rights and AOTA at 4.6 megabytes. So the body of the email begins regarding SWL 41948-20 and SWL 32448-19 hearing schedule for November 4th, 2020. And unlawful actions of MA&H, which is Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, LTB, which is Landlord Tenant Board, Municipal Enforcement, Waterloo Regional Police Services, Atlas Property Group, City of Waterloo, Province of Ontario, Legal System, etc. To date, there has been $28,800 in unlawful rent collected at 100A Marshall Street and caused an illegal eviction through misrepresentation and fraud. To date, there has been $42,000 in unlawful rent collected at 98B Marshall Street and is about to cause another illegal eviction through misrepresentation and fraud if you subtract the $3,600 in money orders in lieu of the claim for unpaid rent by the landlord and the current claim in SWL 4194820. That's a typo. With the legal notice, self-explanatory, request under AOTA and human rights, attachments, letter to A&H, inspect tax fraud final, PDF is the written response, a request for assistance to follow the law, cease and desist harm. 100A Marshall, PS order, June 13th, 2019, PDF is a copy of the work order with fence of 98B evaluation of not in compliance. 98B Marshall Street rental license 2020 is a copy of the PDF, is a copy of the 2020 rental license signed by Atlas Property on behalf of Commissions Worldwide, misrepresented the facts in the applications. 2020-08-23 rep auth HURI AOTA PDF is a permissions to represent and a request for full property inspection, including the current request and a copy of the request on association agreement signed August 2019 and submitted into evidence in SWL 3244819 hearing
and to this date still not honored and has been ignored, which enabled unlawful acts and abuse and possible tax assessment manipulation. Highly prejudicial and arbitrarily caused further harm and misrepresentation of the facts necessary for a proper, lawful determination. The ball is in your court. Good luck. I meant to say that it's been highly punitive against the tenants, but I guess I typoed or whatever. It's highly punitive against the tenants, who are also disabled, and landlord was informed since we moved in. Shame on you. Cancel the hearing and do the inspections. We will not attend or participate in these abuses any longer. You must review the unlawful decision of SWL 32448-19 immediately, and a full investigation of the conduct of participants. Chris Bacon, Marshall Street Tenant Association. We hope to see you here to do the inspection on November 4, 2020, as it would be a more productive and lawful use of the time you have already set aside to get the answers. Okay, so let's go and we will open. So I click the thing and it's opening right to the letter, which I shall now read. How do you make this bigger? Oh, plus. Okay, plus. There you are. Now let's get rid of the sidebar. How do you get rid of the sidebar? And let's go full. Can you go full page? No. Okay, I guess we're stuck with it. Or can we keep going just a minute? Let me see. Sorry, I'm not familiar with this. Okay, so page 1 of 7. Don't worry, most of it's the headers for who it's being sent to. Friday, October 30th, 2020, legal notice of pending action sent by email. Note, this has been posted as a public notice on YouTube to inform the general public as a public service and in the public good. So, it is addressed to, oh, look at that, you can't do it. Oh, no, that, okay, can we, oh, maybe I can get it bigger and then move it over. Let's see, can you do that or no? No, you only get the same amount of window. Okay, never mind. Oh, hang on. No? Sorry. Okay, so we're good. That's all we're going to get. Okay, so let's do it there. So as you can see, Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Government of Ontario, Leader of Progressive Conservative Party for Ontario. The reason why I did that is because I'm also going to be sending this out to the Leader of the Liberal Party and NDP, because they were all informed and they all do the same thing because they are ministers of the Crown. They're here to protect the Crown. They say it's a legal issue. Well, you're darn tootin' it is. It is now. Ministry of Attorney General. Again, Attorney General at ontario.ca, which came up because of my address book. I had been doing this for years, and Doug Downey was the guy at one point, so I guess it's under his name still. Rod Phillips, Finance Minister of Ontario. Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Ian Kerr, Regional Manager, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Tony Bruto, Team Lead, London Office, Western Municipal Services. Karen Redmond, Regional Chair, Regional Municipality of Waterloo. Mayor Jaworski, City of Waterloo. Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, Human Rights Legal Support Center. With Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, we added the note, we request an immediate Ontario Human Rights Commission initiated application inquiring intervention on behalf of 4 disabled persons jointly and severally. And I also added that to the note for Human Rights Legal Support Center. LTB hearing response email swlltb@ontario.ca, which is what we're required to do for the video conference. So regarding SWL 32448-19 was original filing. Unlawful, biased, prejudice, improper decision. Ms. Mills and MST was party to and gave evidence. Landlord gave perjured testimony and misrepresented facts. This new SWL 4194820 is an improper hearing facilitation and continuation of this error in judgment and in law, and is cruel and unusual punishment, as well as increases hardship and needless and reckless suffering. This error in judgment law has been instrumental in a chain of unlawful facilitation, creating and maintaining a constant state of hyperactivity in an unsafe and unprotected environment. Improper due diligence on the part of Ministry of MA&H, which is Municipal Affairs and Housing, and LTB, led to the misrepresentation of the facts necessary for proper determination as a major contributing factor, which is highly prejudicial and enables the continued abuse of process and of the rights of the tenants. So you're already on page 3 of 7. Email to Regional LTB Office. With regard to accommodation request and request for removal of already proven and demonstrated inaction in cooperating with a full and complete property inspection as required by law as the minimum standard as highly prejudicial to the process, taxpayer, and tenants, by withholding all further action or hearings on these matters until a full and complete property inspection to determine the compliance with the minimum building code of each property in question has been assessed and furnished furnish a written report on. The law is clear. If they do not meet minimum code, it is unlawful for any person to collect rent or cause rent to be collected, which includes the ministry, province, etc. So all unlawful rent is to be reimbursed with interest, and there is no legal rent owing, so therefore there would be no arrears to collect from a tenant. This is a violation of human rights as well as civil and security of person. Cease and desist immediately. I am a person with a disability which includes PTSD and a brain injury with memory problems where I require a recording device to participate in my own life. I did not ask for any of this. I was forced into having to defend myself and the other people represented herein because I guess I am the most trusted and qualified. How do you define security of person or reasonable enjoyment or hardship? All contact is to be directed to the following address. Chris Bacon, Director, Marshall Street Tenant Association, MSTA, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jag 2 Terrace 4, phone 519-603-2663, email marstreetass @execulink.com. Regarding, so that's the preamble, and this is still part of the preamble. It's regarding obstruction of justice, gross negligence, and unlawful conduct of the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, oversight of Police Act service providers and stakeholders, including human rights abuse within the system, improper conduct and misrepresentation by municipal enforcement officers and others, while practicing excessive use of force against for example, against the tenants while exhibiting an apparent inappropriate use of force and direct interference in our tenancy contract, and using our disabilities against us and denying even our basic legal rights and proper representation as parent protection for the owner landlord and the system, with the definitive lack of enforcement by restricting us to a system of willing partners, including the police, tribunal system, and regional legal system, to restrict the scope of representation to paying rent on buildings that barely meet minimum building code, which is the sole responsibility of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, no matter who he chooses to delegate his authority to. Whether deliberate or by error, this apparently allows them to misrepresent the facts, which continue to contribute to and aiding and abetting of this unlawfully acting ministry and its affiliates, subordinates, and the property owner and others in ongoing issues at 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, and the direct connection to improper hearing and unlawful decision with LTB case file SWL 32448-19, an outstanding work order for 108 Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, required to be fulfilled by July 15, 2019. Of which Marshall Street Tenant Association, MSTA, was a party to and is part of this action. We believe these events prove unequivocally that the landlord, owner, and his agent knowingly filed and gave false information testimony under oath and perjured themselves in the matter of SWL 32448-19 and further in the applications for rental licenses for these properties, given the proof that these properties do not meet basic building code standards, and there is a question of negligence on the part of Municipal Enforcement Department, operating on behalf of the Region Waterloo and the City of Waterloo and the Province of Ontario. Quote, no person is allowed to give false statements or any form of misrepresentation in an investigation certainly begins with the Municipal Enforcement Officer tasked to determine the facts. Not to undermine and cover them up or to use a municipal enforcement order is nothing more than a prop against disabled, law-abiding, responsible tenants. Municipal enforcement, fire inspectors, and police are also governed under the Police Services Act, which appears to be violated as a matter of course given the circumstances herein with regard to possible and exposed misrepresentation. For example, more than one property failed fire inspection right after obtaining a rental license. Municipal enforcement and others stated on numerous occasions that they, quote, consider the case closed. With respect to the work order, the law says differently. You have 10 business days from the date of this letter to register the outstanding work order with the Land Registry Office to take immediate steps to enforce and collect the fines for the work order. Failure to do so may result in further legal class action to be pursued on behalf of all lawfully operating landlords, mortgage holders, and all tenants disabled in Ontario. These issues continue to directly interfere with and abridge basic human rights, and especially the right to security of person, while objectively and subjectively using the system improperly and unlawfully to actively misrepresent the facts, which allows this unlawful condition to exist and to continue unabated, thereby removing our protection under the law, and effectively making all of us to be notwithstanding, regardless of the facts. It is also contrary to the purpose of the laws and bylaws that are applicable under the law. The ministry is currently in direct violation of its own stated mandate, in violation of the law and their own bylaw. They are not maintaining the standards of building code, which places the public at severe risk of harm and unnecessary financial hardship and loss. It is 473 days since July 15, 2019. Under current order, for only property standards violations, the accruing value of uncollected fine is $500 per day or part day, which equals $236,500 and counting. They just added another $500 today, by the way, so that would now be $337,000. If the law were properly applied and the rental license bylaw was also taken into account, the full daily fine would be $850 per day or part day, which would actually be $402,050, or $402,050, which would now be $900 as of today, because the sun rose, and it's now the 31st. This does not include the mandatory minimum $50,000 fine for the first offense by a corporation, etc., but also the uncollected permits, filing fees, 2 prior years of rental license violations of 4 properties, and possible other fines. And he is a certified real estate agent who is required to be in compliance with the law as part of the professional standards of conduct for the profession, who sought out an improper and illegal lease agreement within the marketplace when a standardized rental lease has been the law for years, and there may be pending business venture with the other parties, pending business venture the other parties are tied to with regard to future development of these properties, of which there is a shared vested interest. Whether by error, on purpose, or by omission, this situation exists and is responsible for grievous harm and acts of continued unlawfulness, including but not limited to the removal of human rights, civil and other rights, and is wholly responsible for this continuing harm, which must cease and desist immediately. We feel there is also a question of possible tax avoidance, real estate, and or banking fraud that need to be examined. This is legal notice that we are preserving the rights of the estate of John Lichty, co-tenant, leaseholder, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, with regard to this matter, who is also a part of these ongoing matters and events, may have contributed to his death on July 18, 2019. Here's the actual letter. Premier Ford, Minister Clark, Regional Chair Redmond, Mayor Jaworski, and Ian Kerr and Tony Bruto, LTB, HRTO, HRLSC, and who may concern. Attached, you will find the PDF file containing originating documents as proof of representation for the complainants and leaseholder Kerry Mills, estate of John Lichty, and occupants, and proof of request for full property inspections, past and current. A PDF copy of the outstanding work order for 100A Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, dated June 15, 2019. Links on page 6 to current pictures of infractions at 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, and other areas of concern, including issues with water runoff and diversion directly connected to failed work order, combined with uncorrected ongoing issues at 98B Marshall Street, and the proof of the unenforced and unfinished requirements of the current work order, which is a direct result of the gross negligence and misconduct of the Municipal Enforcement Division, its directors, and assigns. Ultimately, the responsibility is the ministers, according to the Ontario Municipal Act. Their mistake? The portion of the work order related to the fence actually belongs to 98B Marshall Street, so again proves non-compliance with Ontario Building Code since June 15, 2019. And seeing as it's still not correct, I didn't put that in the letter. Seeing it's still not corrected, I guess it means it's still not to code. But that's what the inspections are for. Okay, so back to the letter. We are seeking a full investigation and review of the events connected to these properties and abuses of power and authority, and to have corrections made to prevent these types of unlawful practices and abuses of the system, especially with regard to the legal representation and tribunal system and partnership of willing partners that are enabling this abandonment of responsibility and supports an apparent lack of accountability at the core of the current system. All persons I have been chosen to represent described as tenant of both 100A Marshall Street, currently occupants at 98B Marshall Street by permission of leaseholder, and 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, is disabled, including Austin Mills, who has autism, So this is an official request under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, AOTA, and other human rights laws. This request is for all contact from all parties. There is a prevalence of recurring PTSD due to the psychological stressors experienced through these continual and unrelenting acts of what can only accurately be described, as dismissal and abuse. Regardless of what legal rights you feel are in play here, there is no justification for any of these ongoing assaults and being held hostage to the whims of a self-entitled system of willing partners. What is your definition of reasonable enjoyment, cruel and unusual punishment, punitive action, deterrence, justice and truth, responsibility, leadership, accountability? The request for proper and full building code inspection for 98B, Marshall Street, 100 Marshall Street are self-explanatory, but the two other properties which were not licensed between 2017 to 2019, for example, 98A Marshall and 100B Marshall Street, prior to the work order 100A, should also be fully inspected, as well as any other properties the ministry feels appropriate, given the owner, landlord, property management company's apparently misrepresented and gave false information in all rental applications applied for on Marshall Street with regard to these four properties. The City of Waterloo Public Records also shows the problematic history of enforcement connected to these properties, and many issues were evident long before Mr. Papadopoulos acquired them in 2017, and in which the City of Waterloo was properly notified of the notice of sale for these properties when purchased and as required by law by Mr. Papadopoulos. The City of Waterloo Municipal Enforcement Division interfered with the evidence and collection of evidence, misrepresented facts, and used a provincial work order and the investigation as a prop against the tenants to assist themselves and landlord-owner property management to avoid penalty and further discovering of their continued cooperative negligence. Municipal enforcement also incorrectly assessed the penalties which should have lawfully been levied against the owner. For example, did not violate the property under the rental license bylaw itself or under the fencing bylaw, which, as the legislation states, if you are in violation of one applicable bylaws, the violations are concurrent, which means they were infringed upon, which again supports a full review given the alleged seriousness of abuse of process and law. The owner, landlord, and Atlas Property Group, Inc. submitted patently false applications in obtaining the 2019-2020 rental licenses by attesting these properties are to minimum building code and is in compliance with all bylaws, where no person shall misrepresent any facts within an application which, once a proper and full property inspection is completed on behalf of the taxpayer, the answer is provided and the prejudicial situation can end and the subsequent harm can begin to be repaired. Either way, these properties will be to minimum building code going forward as is required by the law. We are also seeking immediate intervention to correct this unlawful situation and investigation into possible criminal conduct. We are seeking a full review of the tribunal and subsequent system used to defend tenant rights in Ontario, such as legal aid system or regional community legal clinics, and Landlord-Tenant Board of Ontario, which appears to have acted unlawfully when terminating the tenancy of 100A Marshall Street and is continuing to act unlawfully and cause others to act unlawfully, which undermines the law they claim to protect and preserve. We ask the Law Society, Solicitor, and Attorney Generals of Ontario and Osgood Hall, Lawyers Associations, etc., to immediately review their processes and protocols and policies with regard to how persons in the legal profession are choosing to practice, especially with regard to paralegals. There must be better training and accountability and with regard to persons with disabilities. Hint, it's more about what happens once we've crossed the physical barriers, automatic doors, escalators, and disabled washrooms, ... like such as actual accessibility to representation. We know you're scared. 2,000 years being the boss, it's, you're used to doing it your way. It's a new day, and you're done. Anyway, back to the letter. Due to issues with disability, all contact is to be not less than 24 hours notice and to be in writing, date and estimated time, purpose of being there, identify who they represent, for example, company contact info, what areas they intend to do work. They may be recorded on video and or audio during points of contact and while on the property as security against false accusation. Reason for which is that, well, obviously all the harassment, but the reason for which is that Ms. Mills and her son do not like to be present and would like the option to be elsewhere due to the previous behaviors allowed to be perpetrated by Mr. Koenig and others, which leads to further anxiety, including being afraid to leave the house. Austin has autism and needs a secure and stable environment. We all have PTSD, especially given the level of abuse the authorities have represented and asserted, regardless of our pursuit of appropriate assistance at all levels of access. All contact is to be minimized where possible and to be completed as soon as possible and well coordinated, as we have literally had enough. All COVID-19 restrictions are to be observed and a cooperation is expected. Mark Koenig of Koenig Holdings is not to attend the property unannounced or unaccompanied, is to stay no less than 100 feet of Kerry Mills and or Austin Mills. We are seeking individual and departmental intervention and liaison assistance with Human Rights and Other Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, AOTA, to prevent further systemic and other abuse. We request you to have a coordinator assigned to assist with future contact. We require access to the system and assistance to present our case in whatever venues are necessary to defend our rights collectively and individually, including access to public records and to the complaints process of the Waterloo Region of Waterloo and the City of Waterloo, and to change the obstruction at the provincial, ministry, regional, city, and tenant board level. For example, landlord, tenant board, human rights tribunal, legal, civil, and criminal, and to pursue our constitutional rights. We wish to jointly and severally pursue our claims against those perpetrators to the full extent of the law, including criminally. I didn't say criminally there, but I'm saying it now. The intent is clear. We seek to change the system on behalf of all residents and taxpayers of Ontario. Put your best foot forward, because based on this experience, we are all new to this. Even though the AOTA has been in effect since 2012, and they've been beating everybody else over the head with it. Make your best effort to accommodate and maintain access. Introduce us to your disability coordinators or AOTA reps, and we can maybe find a new way together to prevent this from ever being allowed to happen again. Also, as a result of this experience, we are introducing the tenants of Ontario to VTRAPS, which stands for Voluntary Tenant Rental Audit of Property Standards, the purpose of which is determining in real time just what effect the rental license bylaw and the rental system in general has had over the past 8 years. The rental license bylaw and other measures have been in effect, including the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Landlord Tenant Tribunal, and Residential Tenancies Act, with regard to lawful tenancies in Ontario in maintaining the minimum building code. Using the Ontario Municipal Act and localized property standard bylaws, etc., we will show other tenants in Ontario how to use these tools to perform their own real-time assessment of the rental unit to see just how it holds up against what the current system makes it look like, in an effort to provide a real-time tool for government and others to use to evaluate the efficacy and value within these systems, and to ensure better fiscal efficiency and cost savings while raising more revenue through proper enforcement. We hope that you help support us in this endeavor, as it would go a long way to identify the problem areas and to have lawful rental units instead of exploited ones, and would save the taxpayer money while collecting more revenue lawfully through actual enforcement. 98% of landlords are responsible. It's just a few that are apparently allowed to continue to operate freely in spite of the law that are the problem, besides the system of willing partners that appears to support them. I am sure... Oops, sorry. Hang on. I am sure, this is 7 of 7, so I am sure that once full participation is achieved, VTRAPS will do more for tenant rights and improve housing in Ontario. But then that is the point. You can start to change, turn a negative into a positive, or not. We hope for proactive and cooperative. We require a written response. You have a few choices, but we hope you make the right one going forward. In this case, you can decide to take the time set aside for legal representatives and their clients, namely Theo Papadopoulos from Commissions Worldwide, Inc., and Mark Koenig from Koenig Holdings, and the General Manager of Properties for Atlas Property Group, Inc., to attend at Marshall Street on Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, to immediately perform full property inspections on all 4 properties. These people have attested to as being in compliance with the rental license and other bylaws, so answer, ask, and answered definitively moving forward. To do anything else remains highly prejudicial and arbitrarily punitive, besides being a continuing human and legal rights abuse. It also happens to be due diligence based on our common knowledge of the law and all current statutes. We patiently wait for these properties to be brought into lawful compliance and to do away with this obvious and seemingly deliberate absence of accountability within the government Crown's domain. This is also a federal action against the government of Canada, as these are constitutional issues, so we will be seeking legal remedy at this level as well, and ask for assistance under human rights laws and AOTA, Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, to pursue all remedies to prevent this from ever happening to anyone, ever again. Sincerely and without reservation, Christopher Bacon, Director, Marshall Street Tenant Association, MSTA, 519-603-2663. Email marstreetass@execulink.com. On behalf of Kerry Mills, tenant, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack, 2 Terrence 4, member of Marshall Street Tenant Association. And of course, there's links to, at the bottom, there's links to pictures. 100-day Marshall work order pictures, 17 items, which prove that it has not been honored. And that's just based on what I was able to get from not being able to walk on the, like, go on the property. Don't want to be caught for trespassing or something. Anyway, 98B Marshall's building code bylaw pictures, 44 pictures, to show the infractions of 98B, and driveway water diversion pictures, which are showing that there's a problem between the two buildings and it's creating what's going to be a sinkhole. So let's go and we'll do the link for the first one to show that they're working. So I click the first one, it goes right to my Google Photos, shared folder. And this is to show that it's still not done. So there's a broken window here, which they were supposed to fix. There is supposed to be a handrail here, and there's not, which you can see when you see the other side. But they also made another stair down here, and there's supposed to be a barrier here and another handrail, if it was done to code. Oh, here it is. See? No handrail. That is part of the order. That was supposed to be put on as part of the order. Not fulfilled. Fence. You put your hand through it. It's not allowed to be rusty. It's all rusty. See? This is showing the back stairs with no handrail, and there's no guard there. Like there's no, if you have a wall over, what is it, 12 inches or something, or 10 inches, you're supposed to have a barrier to prevent anybody from falling. Again, the fence. And this is 98B's fence, even though it was on 100A's property. So again, all rusty and everything still. There's more than this. This is just showing an example of something. Okay, so what do you do? Okay, so we go to Google Chrome. Oh, gee, I went to the, okay, so I got to go to the letter again, sorry. Where's the letter? Did I just close the whole thing? I think I did. Okay, so let's open up the letter, we'll go to the bottom, we'll check the last links. How about I go like this? Go open a new tab. I guess it doesn't matter. I don't know how this. Anyway, so here's building code bylaw infractions. So again, the fence, because again, fencing, you're only supposed to have one. And this proves that it's 98B's fence that's the problem again, too. So you're not allowed to have things growing through the fence. You're not allowed to have more than one level of fence. Anyway, provided that you're not allowed to have the uneven ground and stuff like that. There's the driveway again. Those buckets with rain is because there's a problem with the eaves that's filled up from one night of rain, which usually ends up in our basement. The cracks of the foundation go all the way around the building, and it's showing that the building appears to be sinking in the bottom back corner. And then there's the porch, which is letting water in. We've got mold damage in the basement, which they refuse to deal with. How do you do this? You go back? Gee, I don't get this. Okay, so. guess I gotta open the damn thing again, do I? That's weird. Yeah, anyway, so I'm not gonna bother clicking on pictures of it, I guess. I'll just show the links working. And it's the last one anyway. And then this one here. Driveway water division pictures, and there's also a movie in there, a little video that shows why there's a problem between them, and it's attached to the work order. And again, it's showing even this part here is depressed. Here, let me click on that. This little part here is sunk since we were there last year. You can see where the ground used to be and how much it's sunk since then. Okay? They know what's going on. Okay, so we finished the letter. Let's click on service. Here's the work order. The actual work order, which they consider the case closed. And as you can see, well, sideways, it says July 15th, 2019 is by when they were supposed to have done it. They gave it to them June 13th, and I believe the license was dated June 20th. Oh, we have to look. I got the license somewhere. But you can tell just by the evidence what they've done. So this is it here. They considered the case closed. They've managed to cover a few things since I've been posting this online. Here's the rental license for 98B, and the reason why I'm showing that is you can see that 98B 2020 rental license for 98B Marshall Street was applied for by the owner, which is Theo Papadopoulos, 2576514 Ontario Inc., 455 Old Oak Road, or Old Oak Drive, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2, Terrence 2, Victor 8. That is Commissions Worldwide Inc., Theo Papadopoulos. Atlas Property Management Company was listed as Atlas Property Group Inc., 1 King Street North, Floor 3, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2, Jack 2W6. Work 519-745-7999, info@atlasproperty.com. So that means they were the ones who signed the application stating that this property is to code. So therefore, the inspection should be done, and if it is found it is not to code and there are violations of bylaw, that is a false and misrepresentation and fraud. Misrepresentation to the tenants, to the taxpayers, and they need to be arrested and take immediate enforcement action. That would determine immediately on the spot all legality going forward in this matter, and is highly prejudicial if it doesn't happen. This is the permissions. I'm only going to read one because they all stayed the same, but I have one from Carrie Mills, one from Austin Mills, and one from Denise Duval, because I'm not actually a party of this other than under 100A. From Carrie Mills, tenant leaseholder and member of the Marshall Street Tenant Association, MSTAC attached. With regard to rental property, 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2, Jack 2, Terrence 4, City of Waterloo, rental license number 2020005445. As tenant and leaseholder of the rental property as described above, I, Carrie Mills, give permission for Christopher Bacon, the Director of Marshall Street Tenant Association, MSTA, to be my representative and spokesperson regarding all tenancy lease issues with respect to this unit at 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2, Jack 2, Terrence 4, and or any issues to do with any rights and or protections available under Accessibility Ontarians, or for Ontarians with Disabilities Act or Human Rights Acts and other applicable laws with regard to matters herein. I also reaffirm, where am I? I also reaffirm the content of the original document we signed to form Marshall Street Tenant Association dated August 16, 2019 is still valid and fully binding, including the fact that as the legal tenant and leaseholder, I had clearly requested a writing on August 16, 2019. August 16, 2019, to have a full property inspection to ascertain this property's lawful compliance as required under property standards bylaw, as well as the purpose of the rental license bylaw and the Ontario Building Code and Residential Tenancies Acts, which was clearly ignored and I feel contributed to unlawfully enabling the current situation with this landlord and property management companies. I asked the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to immediately commence a full property inspection assessment for compliance with the Ontario Building Code and local bylaws as required by the rental license bylaw to be lawfully licensed to rent in the City of Waterloo, to be undertaken at the rental property here at 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack 2 Terrence 4, to prove the lawfulness of this property and current license, or to commence immediate enforcement of the Ontario Building Code and other laws. I also asked the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to immediately cause a review of the conduct of municipal officers and police services officers and the fire prevention officers involved in these matters, as there is distinct evidence of improper licensing and falsified inspections. At least two of the properties in question, including the outstanding work order at 100A Marshall Street, because the violations for the fence on that order are clearly for the fence at this property at 98B Marshall Street and not 100A Marshall Street. No person is allowed to give false or misleading statements, which certainly includes your municipal officers, inspectors, the landlord-tenant board, any police officer, any court employee, any fire prevention officer or inspector too, right? We ask Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, Government of Ontario, Solicitor General of Ontario, and the Attorney General of Ontario for a full judicial review of how this is allowed to happen. We ask you to cease and desist this unlawful assault and abuse of the law and use our disabilities against us while supporting willing partners who exploit the law rather than enforce or uphold it. We ask you to act lawfully and enforce the law. Dated on this, the 23rd of August, 2020. Signed by Carrie Mills, witnessed by Denise Duval. Austin Mills, same thing. Signed by Austin Mills, witnessed by Carrie Mills, 23rd of August, 2020. Same document, signed by Denise Duval, witnessed by Carrie Mills, on 23rd of August. This is the copy of the original Marshall Street Tenant Association notice that we had. So, page 1 of 2, Marshall Street Tenant Association, Care 100A, Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack, 519-603-4104, and crispybacon@hotmail.com. That was what I was using at the time. City of Waterloo Municipal Enforcement, Mayor Jaworski, Shane Turner, Shamir Maida, Allison Hensall, Region Waterloo, Waterloo Regional Police Services, Public Health, Chief Medical Officer of Health, Ontario, or Province of Ontario, Attorney General of Ontario, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who was addressed to and sent to. Friday, August 16, 2019. Please be advised, and this was entered into evidence in the hearing. The original hearing which allowed us to be evicted, which they all interfered with and did not follow the law. So Friday, August 16th, because of the circumstances there, we were forced. Everything we've done here, we've been forced to do, because there's no other option other than let them get away with it. So Friday, August 16, 2019, please be advised that we, the undersigned, have agreed to form a tenant association as we are the legal tenants of said properties and have a similar shared legal rights and interests with regard to the execution, the management, and rental of these properties described as follows. 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack 2 Terrence 4, and 100A Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack 2 T4, in the region of Waterloo in the province of Ontario, Canada. As a tenants association, namely the Marshall Street Tenant Association, we also acknowledge and appoint Christopher Bacon as our spokesperson and main representative and has the authority to speak on all matters on behalf of the Marshall Street Tenant Association. So this already granted the permissions we needed, but we got to do it 10, 12 times and we didn't do it right and do it again. This isn't high school as much as you'd like it to be. Dated on this, the 16th day of August 2019, the City of Waterloo, the Region Municipality of Waterloo in the Province of Ontario, Canada. Carrie Mills, tenant 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo. Denise Duval, tenant 100A Marshall Street, Waterloo, and Christopher Bacon, tenant 100 Marshall Street, Waterloo. But this is the most important one. Also, by signing above, I, Carrie Mills, do hereby request a full housing inspection, including the Ontario Building Code, of the rental property known as 98B Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2J, 2 Terrence 4. It is my understanding that the landlord already gave his full permission to fully inspect the premises as part of his rental license application, which is also currently under review. I request this to affirm the true legal standing of this property in order to properly administer my rights as a tenant in Ontario. So guess what the one underneath it says for 100A for Denise Duval and Chris Bacon? You're right, it says exactly the same thing, but I'm going to read it anyway. Also, by signing above, we, Denise Duval and Chris Bacon, do hereby request a full housing inspection, including the Ontario Building Code of the rental property known as 100A Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack 2 Terrace 4. It is my understanding that the landlord already gave his full permission to inspect the premises as part of his rental license application, which is also currently under review. I request this to affirm the true legal standing of this property in order to properly administer my rights as a tenant in Ontario. So this is August 16, 2019, long before we were evicted, and long before we even had the hearing in October, where that improper, illegal eviction, which they also interfered with our ability to give a proper case because they did not provide a safe environment to the point where we fled. They were threatening to call police for no reason because the person at the hearing could not control the hearing. And because his lawyer, because we were getting to the crucial evidence and his lawyer started panicking, so he didn't know what else to do, and he's like, I'm going to stand up and call the police. And because they were not allowing, I have the whole thing on tape. The whole thing's on transcript. But what's interesting is that they accepted every piece of our evidence, and it was all documented. Matter of fact, it's on the website. I mean, sorry, it's I think it's posted somewhere maybe. Anyway, so that's that. That's page 1. Page 2. Regarding previous inspections at 100A Marshall Street. The previous inspections conducted at 100A Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2 Jack 2 T4 were forced at best and woefully incomplete. The landlord had also given his full permission for full inspection as part of his rental license application, which is currently under review and in direct violation of bylaws and work orders. This is after they said they considered the work order case closed. Our personal investigation has now revealed that Commissions Worldwide, Inc., in addition to filing multiple false documents and declarations in the rental license application, is now acknowledged to be participating in misrepresentation and fraud with your apparent full cooperation in obstructing justice while actively and with malice aforethought knowingly participate and facilitate undermining the rights of the tenants, legally operating landlords, property management businesses, and taxpayers of Ontario because of a pending development deal being applied for this location by the landlord. Also, it has been 32 days since the deadline for enforcement on the existing work orders. Not surprised. Waiting for the landlord-tenant board to do the rest, just like clockwork. There's that pesky pattern of behavior again. And boy, what do you call that? Foreshadowing, eh? How do you describe racketeering, misrepresentation, and fraud? The question is, will it take the court of public opinion to sort it all out? Still dotting the I's and crossing the T's on our complaint to City Council. Where is Ms. Bonajoir, ward councillor? It's a group effort. Because we asked for help, and everybody's just told to stay away. And they do. And this is pattern behavior that was exhibited the last time they did this. John Thomas Lichty, a tenant of 90AB Marshall Street, Waterloo, Ontario, Norman 2J, 2 Terrace 4, died on July 18, 2019 from complications brought on by a heart attack from all of the stress and continued harassment that this unlawfully acting landlord was facilitated and empowered to flout the law while actively seeking to circumvent the rights of tenants, taxpayers, and law-abiding landlords and property management companies, and with the apparent assistance of those whose responsibility it is to administer and to uphold the law, not allow someone to buy their way around it for profit, and contrary to their own rental license bylaw, thereby endangering the lives of every renter in the regional municipality of Waterloo and at the hands of the city of Waterloo. This is going to be interesting. Sincerely, without reservation, C.J. Bacon. For the Marshall Street Tenant Association, all tenants and legally operating landlords and property management companies in Ontario. There you go. So, that's the letter. That's the letter in its entirety that was sent. It is legal notice. Doug.
Just a quick note in closing. What you're seeing here is the court everywhere is starting to practice this notwithstanding thing. You've seen it in Caledonia. Again, the court, the Crown is in trouble from their history. There's direct evidence, no doubt, probably. And in order to, they sit there and remember when Caledonia started, they initiated the construction without permission. Again, that's municipal affairs and housing, permitting, right? Municipal affairs and housing, here we are again. Notwithstanding, the judge, all right, you're notwithstanding, I'm going to throw out all your evidence, and I'm just going to do what the hell I want. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Isn't that what they're doing here? That's what they're doing in all rentals in Ontario, because you created this crisis, government, and I'm talking to NDP, Liberal, and Conservative, because this has nothing to do with politics. Politics is just a ball where you bat it around to make us piggy in the middle. And if there's anybody who knows about piggy in the middle, it's somebody named Chris Bacon. Hey, I've been piggy in the middle my whole life. This is why they have two wedge issues. It's just a wedge issue, because all they do is they put up one side, the other side, then they argue in between. Let's go to court and decide whether or not we should do anything when the law says we're supposed to. Win-win-win situation, because hey, if they uphold the law, they win. If they don't uphold the law, they win even better, because hey, when they don't uphold the law like they're doing now, you got to go into courts and tribunals and the courthouse. Like I said, they used my situation. They invited me down under the pretense of help and assaulted me, almost murdered me on the doorstep, because I died. I relieved my bladder. The only reason why I'm here is because, thank God, they were breaking the rules again. They were trying to get me out of there before anybody could find out. Because it was in there picking me up and trying to carry me to the cruiser that I came to. But let me ask you something. If I passed out, that's a medical event, which means they're to cease and desist right immediately and call an ambulance. Again, these things, oh my God, it's amazing what you can get away with when you want to with willing partners, eh? And I don't blame the police officers, because again, it's the training. And the police officers are as much a pawn as I am, or you, or anybody else. See, don't blame the Crown, though. The Crown has been doing this for thousands of years. They've been the boss. They've been the be-all, end-all of everything. They're not criminal. It's in their mind. Their psyche is built up that, we're all here for them. That the true acquirement of wealth is by stealing the value out of everything and everybody else. Because what are they doing here? They're stealing the value of our dollar. My rental dollar doesn't mean a damn thing. We have no protection under the law. There's no equal protection law. And by the way, if there's anybody there that's been taken to task by the region or municipality for infringement, for land, bylaw stuff, get a hold of us, because this is called equality under the law, my friend. If they came after you, they should be going after this landlord, right? Property owners, I invite all of you. Police officers, if you've been harmed, anybody who's been harmed by these officers, in rental things, especially when there is glaring problems with the rentals, it's clear what's going on here. They are using it as an arm of enforcement and intimidation against the principle of the law. In this case. Anyway, I guess that's why we need a full judicial review and investigation, right? People are dispelling science, like Karen Redmond. When we sent her an email about the black mold, and she basically gave her water cooler opinion about, that's okay, just don't eat out there. Mold isn't really that bad. Just don't get it on your food. Don't go out there when it's windy and all this other stuff. I don't know. It's stuff like that, but we can read it online. I think Denise did. Anyway, the reason why they don't use science anymore is because they got cooler science, man. It's cooler science. The ones where they discuss science around the water cooler. Anyway, yeah. Hey, it's 2020. What can we say? Let's hope 2020 starts with, again, Brian Larkin, I'm calling for your immediate resignation. We are going to, and I think that should extend to the training officers of Waterloo Regional Police. I am asking for the resignation or firing of Shane Turner and that whole crew. And a criminal investigation to be commenced. because they are only protected from any kind of thing if they're acting in good faith. And good faith means in the law, not good faith in what they're trained to do their job to. And if they're trained to do their job that way, then their bosses need to be charged. This is a serious issue, serious problem, and we need to reevaluate exactly what role the municipal government plays in this country, and the Queen and the Crown. And if it is nothing more than a figurehead, and this notwithstanding isn't exactly what it's turning out to be, disabled notwithstanding, unemployed notwithstanding, not 100% healthy notwithstanding, we're all just a commodity to be bought, traded, and sold, because that's what the Crown does. They have done it for thousands of years. We can't blame them for it, but what we can do is we can abolish them. Queen Elizabeth, you're going to be the most famous queen in history because you will be the last reigning monarch. I say we do a referendum. We say, hey, you know what? Queen Elizabeth, enjoy your final days. You know, soak it all up. Wear your crown. Go wear some tiaras. You know, dance around with, you know, naked in your robe, naked in your room or whatever. I don't give a crap. Enjoy yourself, because when you die, your crown and your monarchy dies with you. The moment your heart stops beating, every contract that says anything about benefit to the Crown is to be immediately changed to all legal citizens of Canada. Then we are all invested in our own country. We are the masters of our own domain. All benefits to anything that we do come back to us, which is as it should be. We get our value for our money and work and efforts returned to who they belong to. You've lived off of indentured servitude your whole life. I know it's difficult. You know, you've never had to do anything for yourself on your own. You know, it must be very difficult for you, very scary. Just like it was for the Emperor of China. So why don't you go watch Emperor of the Sun several times, sit down with a nice bag of popcorn, you and Philip and Charlie and whoever else, and Andrew could bring one of his naughty girlfriends with him, and maybe you can all have like a sundowner party, okay? Because I am putting out to the public, with regard to municipal government, we need a referendum to either seriously curtail their so-called power or to abolish them altogether. Because, again, if this Crown is just, you know, if the Crown is lawful, what's the problem? The problem is they say they're lawful, but they don't act lawful. Referendum in Canada, time for the Crown to go. Prime Minister Trudeau, this is proof that this is a federal thing too, because we've gone to every member of Parliament. We've gone everywhere that there is on Canada, and you're a liar. Disability Minister paying a lot of money to what? For fluff? Because they're not doing anything. What has been done to help disability? Not only that, here's a question when it comes to disability. Again, where's the plan of care? They're only interested in the dollars that are coming in today and the lies they could tell to keep those dollars coming in, because what pandemic pointed out more than anything else is that they don't have a plan. Their plan is to exploit it now because they're breaking leases, because those leases were long-term leases. It's a real estate boom. Aren't you getting it? It's all about the contracts. And like I said, if two people get together and go, yeah, it's $10 million, that's $10 million, and the banks and everybody who's supposed to be checks and balances going, yeah, but you know what, $10 million in business is a lot better than $1 million. So yeah, it's worth $10 million. Yeah, let's do that. That's how it happened in Australia. Follow the links. Anyway, I hope you're all well. Next step is, if they do not, we are going to continue trying to put this in with Human Rights Legal Support Center, Human Rights, whoever, you know, they're fighting us, of course, because they know what's happening. They know what's coming. You know, who would have thought a guy with a disability, brain injury, who's had to record everything that he's ever done, contact-wise with the government and other people like that, throughout his last 16 years, would finally discover that, hey, wait a minute, this is evidence of pattern of behavior. Pattern behavior is what determines criminal behavior. I think we've proven it. You know, that's why, hey, good luck. Anyway, on behalf of all Canadians, true Canadians, and a true Canadian is somebody who is not an indentured servant of that lazy Beth. Whatever you're going to do, hey, just relax. You'll die soon. We'll all be better off for it. And we can finally take over our own fate and our future. And just as a note, you know, brothers in Caledonia, my native brothers, who are, or anybody else who's treated notwithstanding, I encourage you to contact me at notwithstanding@execulink.com. And let's compare notes going forward for a federal human rights case against these people. Because my Micmac brothers in Nova Scotia, that's Nova Scotia. Ontario here in Caledonia, that's another jurisdiction in Ontario also, and let me guess, I bet you anybody there's real ties to the municipal level government where all these things are happening. Get in touch with me. Let's put our action together on behalf of all people of Canada against this crown. We are able to do that as a human rights complaint, and you know what? It's about time. Because if anybody knows anything about these people not keeping their word, it's our native brothers from Turtle Island. I am grateful to be in your home, in our home. And I hope, the way I look at it is native means you were born here, you are part of this land, and I certainly consider myself that. I have always been affinity to the truth. And if there's anything that represents the truth, and I mean the real truth of the depths of depravity that this crown will go, all you need to do is look at their treatment of Indigenous people wherever they go. Every single agreement they have ever made, they have broken. They are not to be trusted. They are not to be kept at their word because their ideology is we are here for them, not the other way around. So what's the mark of the beast? Is it when you treat people like beasts? Because we're nothing like, we're just cows, right? We're like cattle in the field with them. Different colors. Anyway, I'm part of the human race. I hope you get some more people of the human race to join in. Let's save ourselves, shall we? Because you know what? Relying on these people, waiting for them to do it, this is what you get. Anyway, stay safe. I hope you're well. I hope everything's good. Practice safe practices. Take care of one another. Be well. And if you believe that this is what should be done, then you need to get in touch with these people immediately. We need to raise a furor. Raise a furor, you know. Heil. No, I mean, not furor, but it's really fun. Anyway, ironic, isn't it? This is Chris Bacon, Director of Marshall Street Tenant Association, signing out. One more thing, too, just before I go. There's other people around Canada who are also suffering. There's a very good woman who's been sending me some emails as well, telling me, well, actually, she's in the messaging part, from Moncton, New Brunswick. And again, it's simple because she describes basically the same thing, where whenever they have a disagreement with you and you have anything matter of fact, they just start going, oh, they're mental. And they take you in on a mental hold. And I wonder if much the same is happening there again, because again, when you're taken in a mental hold, you're to be given a physical, a full, complete physical. And as part of that physical, they do the psychiatric assessment. This series of willing partners here in Ontario, at least in Waterloo, is they are skipping over that. They're not doing that at all on behalf of each other. So they can both abuse you as much as they want. There's no evidence of it. And with the system the way it is, good luck. Anyway, I want to say I'm sorry for what's going on for you, but again, get a hold of us. We do this together. I think what we do is we combine the cases in a general case against the federal government and against the Crown specifically, depending on the facts, of course, because we got to look at the facts. But if it's anything similar to this, I'm sure we have some common ground. So I'm inviting my brothers with the natives, and I don't care if it's all the way across. Every single native issue, as far as I'm concerned, is eligible because you are the first to be abused, and continually so. So I don't know all the details of your claims, but I do know one thing. I do know your adversary. I know them very well, as you know, as much as we both need to in order to take care of this. And you know what? Going through the legal system in Canada, the whole thing's set to protect the crowd. Anyway, good luck, everybody. Please stay safe, be well, and help us help each other stop this nonsense.